The life of a miner is a difficult one, full of all kinds of hardships. It's made even worse when the fate of the world could be on the line. We're taking a quick peek at Steamworld Dig 2. Steamworld Dig 2 is a 2D platform game that's kind of like a Metroidvania, all about digging for stuff. It's one part Dig Dug, one part Super Motherlode, and one part Metroid, and somehow manages to capture all of those ideas pretty well. A Metroidvania, if you happen to not know, is a combination of the word Metroid and Castlevania from those respective games. Metroid was a game always about exploration and getting upgrades to find new ways to continue exploring, something that Castlevania eventually evolved into doing as well. The basic goal of this game is to dig down into the depths of the earth and collect different resources that can then be sold on the surface to buy upgrades to get more resources easier. That's where the Super Motherlode comparison comes in. A game that did this kind of thing years ago in the big web browser flash game craze. But Steamworld Dig 2 expands on that idea to be more than just a collectathon. The game was developed by Image & Form and is the fourth game in their Steamworld series, even though it's a direct sequel to the second game in that series. I don't know why the developers decided to make their games out of order like this, having Steamworld Tower Defense released in 2010 for Nintendo's DS, Steamworld Dig released to a wider audience in 2013, then Steamworld Heist released in 2015, even though Heist comes after Dig chronologically and is a completely different kind of game, being a 2D turn-based tactics game. Steamworld Dig 2 is the only game on the series so far to use the same mechanics as a previous one, with everything else doing their own thing. Dig 2 uses the same 2D platform mechanics of the first Steamworld Dig, and while it adds to many ideas from Dig, players are still mostly going to be doing the same thing. 90% of the overall gameplay is digging. Digging, and more digging. Collecting minerals, returning to the surface, selling them, buying upgrades, and dig more, collect more, doing the same thing over and over again. It's the base loop of the game, and it's what you're going to be doing a whole heck of a lot. But it's not the only thing going on in Steamworld Dig 2, since it adds a bit more to the concoction. The story of the first game was about a robot named Rusty, who winds up in a rundown town and slowly uncovers more sinister things going on as he digs deeper and deeper into the town's mine. There wasn't really much of an overarching story at the time, but as the series expanded, so did the narrative. Steamworld Dig 2 is a prequel to Steamworld Heist. Anyone who's been following the series and has played Heist may already know that the world exploded into a bunch of little chunks all over the place and everyone now lives in space for some reason, and this all happened at some point, but the reason wasn't explained at the time. This game, on the other hand, fills in the gaps as to what happened and why everyone went to live in outer space in the first place, and it's kind of an odd tale. Unlike the first Dig, players take on the role of Dorthy, who was one of the robots that inhabited the town from the first game. She's on a quest to figure out what happened to Rusty after he uncovered and then defeated the mysterious and highly advanced Vectron at the end of Steamworld Dig 1. But Dorthy finds herself in a new town full of new characters and a new mine to explore and plunder. There's all kinds of different minerals to find down there, anything from the basically worthless trashium to zoinkium, which is named after Zoink Games. Zoink Games was a developer for things like Zombie Vikings and Stick It to the Man, and they joined forces with Image & Form under the umbrella of Thunderflow Games a little while ago. Although they haven't really done much of anything with that brand yet, and as to what that means for the future of either studio is kind of up in the air. Naming a mineral after them is a nice little reference, I suppose, regardless. Each mineral is worth a different amount of cash, and Dorthy can only carry so many with her at a time. She can get upgrades to be able to carry more minerals, and she can drop what she's carrying to grab something more valuable without risking the dropped item disappearing. But eventually, players will have to resurface and sell their goods in order to continue the game. There's more than just minerals to find though in the depths of the earth, as the mine is crawling with enemies, traps, and some special upgrades that can't be found on the surface. Just like with the first game, there are challenge rooms that can be completed in order to earn different rewards, be it a new gadget to use or an upgrade gear that can be used for one of those gadgets. Upgrade gears are littered throughout the world of Steamworld Dig 2, from the highest peak to the lowest level of lava-filled temple depths. Gears can be used interchangeably depending upon what players want at that time. Purchasing an upgrade for a gadget just unlocks the next upgrade, but they have to be activated separately and cost a different amount of gears to do so. If you don't like one of the upgrades, you can just move those gears to something else, which helps encourage experimentation. At least it would if these things weren't so dang easy to find. Throughout my playthrough of the game, I kind of ran out of things I wanted to use the gears on for upgrading and just ended up activating as many things as I possibly could at once. I didn't really go out of my way to collect gears or get nearly all of them within the game, but many upgrades didn't seem useful enough for me to go out of my way to try to get them. You can buy gears within the town for a rather steep price, as well as collect different artifacts from the world that existed before Steambots took over and then exchange those artifacts, but again, I didn't really seem to need to. That being said, most gadgets perform double duty, both dealing damage to enemies, which can make fights easier, as well as helping to dig in different ways. The grenade launcher lets Dorthy do damage from a distance, be it to the end-of-the-world robot cultists, or a pile of dirt packed with ore. Gadgets like the jetpack and grappling hook are great for traversing the mine, but they can also be used to hit flying enemies, or just knock them off a cliff and possibly to their death. There's a good amount of different ways to use each item, which helps keep them from feeling gimmicky. Something that does feel kind of gimmicky is the inclusion of Fen. He's some kind of digital technology ghost thing. Maybe some leftover from Vectron from the first game, maybe something else, who really knows. Fen only really exists for the sake of narrative, popping up here and there to chime in with a line or two in an attempt to move the story along or help guide players on what to do and where to go next. For the most part, Fen feels like a pretty alright character who's got a fascination for destruction, so of course I liked him instantly. I really do feel like Fen could have been incorporated into the game a bit better, though. He's the kind of character that other games would use for unlocks, having him assist Dorthy in doing different abilities instead of just being an NPC that randomly appears at different times. Even though I'm not entirely sure what Fen is, he does have some connection to Vectron with how he can interact with different consoles, letting Dorthy gain access to virtual areas that are kind of difficult to get through. But this only happens once or twice within the game and isn't explored all that much. I do have to say though, when it comes to exploration in general, Steamworld Dig 2 does things a lot better than its predecessor. In the original Dig, all you had to do was go down and you'd eventually find everything you need to find for the game. In Dig 2, however, different key items are spread throughout the game's large environments, and it's all about finding the correct way into each area or having the correct upgrade to gain access to it. While it's annoying to come across a blockade that can't be dealt with without a specific gadget or upgrade, it never felt like much of a problem since the thing you needed would be in a nearby challenge room. If you did have to return to the surface for one reason or another, you could just use the pneumatic tube system that can be slowly expanded on as players unlock new areas of the game. While the world is pretty big, it's not so big as to be confusing, with each area being unique enough in graphical design to be memorable and stand out from each other. If you happen to get lost or really have no idea what to do, you can always turn on the objective marker that can be activated or deactivated at the upgrade menu to point players in the right direction, but I found it more engaging just to play the game without it. I never really got super stuck on not knowing where to go. The game has a map that fills in as Dorthy explores, so the best way to find something you haven't found yet is just to go to an unfilled in area on the map and look around over there. It's probably going to have what you need, and even if it doesn't, there's a good chance there'll be a collectible over there to grab. Overall, Steamworld Dig 2 is more of the same. If you enjoyed the first game, then you will probably enjoy the second. It's not as unique as Steamworld Heist, but does do a lot to expand the ideas of collecting minerals to sell for upgrades and making it easier to just do that dang thing. Having more of a focus on narrative helps the game's core loop be less monotonous, and you don't really have to buy any of the upgrades for yourself or gadgets if you're good enough at the game, though they do make things a heck of a lot easier. I really enjoyed my time with the game and was pleasantly surprised with the direction the developers took with it. The devs even gave the Shiners, who are the last reference to humanity on Earth, I mean Steamworld of course, more of a purpose and specified role opposed to just being brain dead fodder that they were in other games. The only bad thing with Steamworld Dig 2 is really that it's a sequel and a rehash of previously done mechanics and ideas. After playing Steamworld Heist and seeing what that game had to offer over Dig 1, I find it difficult to go back to these ideas without having that been there, done that feeling. If you're someone who hasn't played Heist, with your only experience being Dig 1, Tower Defense, or even if you're new to the series, I feel like the game is good enough to stand on its own merits. It's even fine if the games are played in chronological order instead of released order, and it may only be a specific issue to a handful of people who played the previous games as they came out before getting into Dig 2, but that still doesn't stop me having the feelings about the games that I do, even though the developers did a good job with it. They made a well-crafted game for sure, but something is just missing from the mix to really hook me into this specific game opposed to the rest of the series. Thanks for watching. Please let me know what you think about the game or this video in the comments section. I'm Omega Pie Matt, and I'll talk to you guys later. Want to see more videos that I've made? Click on the video on the left for friggin' awesome frying pans in video games. A video where I talk about some freaking awesome frying pans in video games. Or click on the video on the right for Autumn Night 3D Shooter, a first-person shooter inspired by games of the 90s.